What's up, noobs? Rick back again with another one of my Grey Knights Brotherhood redesign videos. This time, thanks to Kippy, we will be doing the Prescient Brethren, which are my current favorite with the new 9th edition book. But that doesn't mean that I don't think there aren't some things we can square away. So here we are with the 4th Brotherhood, the Prescient Brethren. Let's get into their lore. They are run by Grandmaster Dryston Crom, who is the keeper of the Agorium. And if you're not totally familiar with Grey Knight's lore, the Agorium is where all of the prognosticars hang out. They divine the wills and the whims of the warp and go ahead and send that information to the other brotherhoods and all of the other Grey Knights. That said, the 4th Brotherhood, the Prescient Brethren, work the closest with the prognosticars, and in fact a lot of their number are drawn from this brotherhood. They're exceptional duelists, and it's because they're able to glimpse the future in little spurts and bits and pieces, so they know exactly where to be, where to deploy, and how to avoid any kind of damage. Let's go through the current state of things. If we look at their stratagem, it's amazing. It is simple. It's 1 CP, 1 unit gets to reroll 1s to hit and 1s to wound in shooting or melee. It's fantastic. It's exactly what they need, and it's super flavorful. They're able to divine the will of the warp and put their shots where they matter the most. The Warlord trait, divination, is very good. Right now it is a psychic action, warp charge 6, and your Warlord gets to farm you command points, and command points are great. I think, however, it needs a little bit of a tweak, so we're going to tweak it. And then the psychic power. The psychic power is not awful, but with a 12-inch range, it is pretty ineffective at doing what I think it's supposed to do. So I'm going to exterminatus this entire thing and come up with something new. When we're looking at redesigning this Brotherhood, I want to make sure that we're always looking at the design philosophy and making sure that we are tweaking things so that they are correctly in line with the lore for the Grey Knights and 40k. This Brotherhood should have a flavor that makes it seem like the Prescient Brethren are able to foretell where the enemies are going to be and where their strikes ought to land and where they should deploy. Unfortunately, creating a new unit is beyond the scope of this video series, but I think that having a prognosticar upgrade for a librarian would be fantastic, but that is neither here nor there. The passive bonuses that I would give this Brotherhood, there are 3 of them. Each time a melee attack is made against a core or character unit from the Prescient Brethren, subtract 1 from that unit's attack hit roll. So you are -1 to be hit in melee, army-wide, for all core and all characters. 2, anytime a unit from this Brotherhood is selected to shoot or fight, you can reroll 1 wound or 1 hit roll when resolving that unit's attacks. It's Master Artisans. I think it's very good. It lets you pick and choose where to use your rerolls without having to sacrifice command points. It's also only 1 per unit, so it's not crazy, but it's still very good. It makes you just a little more reliable. And then also, once per game per unit, pick 1 core or character unit to be in the tide of convergence regardless of what other tide you are in. We'll get into more about why I feel like that is particularly good here shortly. So the Warlord trait, I want to change this just a little tiny bit. The only thing that I want to do is I want to make it a psychic power that is available only to this Warlord and not make it a psychic action. And that's it. I just feel like it is removing a character from play that you really need to rely on with Grey Knights because our dominance discipline is only available to characters. So here's the meat. We're going to completely redesign the Brotherhood psychic power. I want to go ahead and change it to Subliminal Effluvium, and this is a malediction, so you cast it on an enemy unit and it will give that unit fight last. That's it. It's not fancy, it's not crazy, it's just very good, and it means that this melee focused Brotherhood is going to be even more reliably melee focused, turning off fighting and interrupts on whatever the thing is that you need to get in and kill. The relic, alright, this is some cool stuff too. The Sagacious Precognitor. This is a deployment shenanigan, and what it allows you to do is take the bearer of the relic, one other core unit, and you get to forward deploy them, just like they had concealed positions like infiltrators or incursors. This is something that I feel was really missing from the Grey Knight's book, and this gives a little something something to one particular Brotherhood. Alright, and what might a list look like for the Prescient Brethren? We have a battalion here, 2,000 points to start with 8 CP. For anybody who's curious, there's a link in the description below to this goofy list that I'm trying out. The HQs will be a Mortal Wounds Librarian, a Grandmaster Dread Knight with all the normal fictions: Great Sword, Hammer of Righteousness, Unyielding Anvil, Sigil of Excellence, Servant of the Throne, Empiric Amplification, and Gate of Infinity. I then put Kaldor Drago in here, even though he's an Honored Knight. I still love the fact that he can give rerolls, so we're gonna give him Sanctuary and Gate of Infinity because he is basically a little mini librarian because he can cast 2. And then troops, we're going to include 1 10-man Terminator squad with swords and 2 5-man strike squads with swords. Elites will be an apothecary. This guy will have a warlord trait of divination, and we're going to give him the sagacious precognitor relic. Then we have 1 4-man servitor squad, 2 fast attacks of 10-man interceptors with halberds, and then only 1 other Nemesis Dread Knight. So that is correct. This is a 2 Nemesis Dread Knight list with 10 Terminators in it. Some of you are going to be absolutely thrilled. Now, how would this list play? So the way I envision this, and you know, I'm not old hand player here, but I envision using the relic during the deployment phase to take the apothecary and that big brick of Terminators and forward deploy them. This will help that you negate some of the slowness of those Terminators. You can deploy them up the board from your deployment edge just slightly behind cover, so that if you lose the roll to go first, you don't immediately get hammered. Or you could string back some Terminators to make sure that they're in range for any buffs from Drago. Drago will give Sanctuary and rerolls to the brick. He can also heroically intervene, and he's a melee deterrent, of course. You have the Grandmaster Dread Knight and the other Dread Knight and the Interceptors moving all around the board like we always do, so they'll be able to move all over the place, cast Purifying Ritual, and then with the Unyielding Anvil aura from the Grandmaster Dread Knight, you'll be able to do your actions and count as OBSEC, even if the strike squads can't do it. And then the servitors, I envision them moving up the board with the Terminators and the Apothecary, and they're there mainly to do the intercept data secondary. So the idea is this list is going to move up to the middle. They're going to lock that down. They're going to have their Feel No Pain from the Apothecary. They're going to be able to come back up. They're going to have Sanctuary from Drago. They're going to have full reroll rolls from Drago, and then they're either going to be able to cast the Fight Last power, or they'll be able to cast Hammer Hand, or if you want to spend 1 CP, they can cast both, which will turn them into a melee nightmare to deal with. And that's it. That's the way that I envision that the Prescient Brethren could look in the future, or rather how they would look if we had been given the same things that all of the new codexes are getting with 9th edition. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that you're enjoying this series. This is the 4th Brotherhood that I've done, so we're now halfway through, or are we? And with that, don't forget, like, comment, subscribe, and call your mother.